Hi, Kevin. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Dave Juteau, and I'm here today with...
My name's Simon Moran from Modern English.
And today, as we said in our video abstract, we're hopefully going to have a discussion about how private language schools or independent language schools managed to survive and thrive through the COVID-19 so far. And Simon has a wealth of knowledge and experience with his school, and I have a little with mine, and I know Kevin has some with his, and probably Lang, you have some with yours, and all the other members who are. So hopefully we'll turn this into a group discussion at some point, but I think we'll get kicked off with Simon telling a little bit about, talking a little bit about his experience, if that's okay with everybody. I think
so just to give a little bit of background, we have 10 schools. We run franchises and affiliates. I own the head school, and all of the others have a single independent owner. So we run an admin telephone center. And so that's how we deal with all of that. So we had to deal with different schools in different prefectures, basically. So right up at the early part of the year, like everybody else, we'd seen the news, and it was obvious something was coming, but nobody knew how it was going to play out. And so we were watching the news daily, and as cases in Japan started to increase, there was lots of chit chat. We had lots of questions from parents and students, and essentially we followed the local prefecture guidelines as to opening and closing. So before the lockdown started, which I think was early April, the first week of April, there were several days in several prefectures where the governors of the prefectures had requested businesses to close on the weekend. Unfortunately, in Tokyo and I think in Yokohama, certainly in Osaka, that news came through on the Friday evening at about 9 or 10 o'clock to close down for the next day on the Saturday, which put us in a real spot because we had to get in touch with everybody, which obviously we can do through mass email and put information on the website. But that gave us a bit of a taste of what was going to come, because obviously closing face-to-face lessons and going on to Zoom presented a challenge. But the biggest challenge that we faced was communicating with people. We've had a free dial number in our office for the best part of 20 years. And when lockdown came, we closed all of the schools and we closed our office, and the staff were teleworking. There was nobody in the office, and we couldn't make or receive phone calls from our own phone number, which obviously was difficult to receive. Well, it was impossible to receive calls, but if we were making a call out, nobody knew it was coming from us when it popped up on their phone. So we got a Skype number, but that came out from no caller ID. We have a line account, we have an email list, and we can monitor who's opened messages on both of those. But of course, you're never sure. Even if you can see that somebody's opened a message, you can't know whether they've read it. Even if you assume that they've read it, you can't be sure that they've understood it. You certainly can't be sure that they will act upon anything that was in it. So communication with students and parents was by far the biggest difficulty that we faced.
Simon, if I may add to that, for our school, which we closed February 27th or something like that, it was 150 phone calls on Friday before March 1st. Two people making phone calls to avoid exactly what you just said. If you send an email, they may or may not get it. They may or may not respond. Mary, you have a question down there.
Oh, no. I was so lucky. In January, I went to the JALT School Owners Conference, and one of the main presentations there was about business line. And I came back from that conference and I said, we're doing it. And so I was very lucky. We had gotten the business line all set up
prior to.
You did. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we use Business Line as well, but I think
Okay.
it's not, it's good for some things, but it's not perfect. I think the obviously the thing is that you can see that a message has been opened, but you don't know that it's been read, and you can't be sure it'll be acted upon. And one of the, I don't know how you set Line up, but one of the difficulties, and we've set it up so it's broadcast only, and that's what I'd recommend anybody does if they set up Line, because you can get involved in chit chat, which can just go on and on and on and on. So you have to control incoming messages as well.
Just a show of hands. Some people don't have their cameras on, so it's a little bit tricky, but how many people had a similar experience to Simon's in that they had to quickly figure out how to communicate with everybody? Anybody out there? Kevin, how did you deal with that? As you turn your microphone on.
Hey, can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, my wife, she took care of everything.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Honest to God, I was busy prepping up for classes, and my wife took care of it. I'll ask her. She's in the other room. Just hold on a sec.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good.
Yeah.
How about you, Lang?
Look, same with Mary. We had the line set up last year, and we've instructed our students, from last year, that if they don't read the line messages, that's their problem. I understand what Simon's saying about you don't know if people have read and understood the message. You're not getting that response to it. However, we put the onus on the students to understand it, and if they don't understand it, to then contact us. So when Abe announced that it was complete lockdown, we closed our school the next day, sent a line message out. There were no problems.
Where are you located, Lang?
In rural Hyogo, so between Kobe and Himeji.
Okay.
Nishiwaki.
Yeah.
We only have 100 students, so and that's about probably 70 families or something. So it wasn't a huge number of people to be contacting, not 10 schools with different people being responsible for doing the contacting. It was just me, well, it was just my wife sending a message to everyone saying we're closed from tomorrow.
Yeah, I should absolve myself. I didn't make any phone calls.
Yeah, well, we didn't make any calls. We called no one. That line message.
That line was your lifeline then.
Yeah.
Kevin?
Oh, go ahead, Mary, after you.
Oh, no, I just want to say that, so the closing up wasn't hard, but then within days, I had to come out from underneath my futon. I knew I just couldn't close forever.
Right.
And it was actually after a week, we opened back up. We were like the only people to open up in Juteau, where my school mainly is. And that is when all the calls came in. And it was like, we want to start back up. We're going to do all this social distancing. And we couldn't just have this reassurance from the parents without actual calling. And it was on my 3 Japanese teachers who were in charge of that. I made no calls myself. That's why I hire them. Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Did you get word back, Kevin?
Yeah, just email. She has it just set up by groups, and she just sent emails, and it worked well. No problems.
Yeah,
May I ask something about Line? A lot of people are using Line. We're thinking about starting it.
Oh, yeah.
What are the advantages? Is it okay to kind of hijack this, or
no?
Is there going to be a question time later? Or?
You're in Shikoku, right? Quiet, please. No.
I'm joking.
Go ahead, Kevin. No.
Hey guys,
we're here to learn from each other.
Put your location on your names. It solves a lot of problems.
That's a great.
So just go in, change your name, put your location.
Yeah. No, sorry. Will there be a question period later, or can we ask questions during the meeting? Okay.
Yeah. So you want?
Can I butt in? Sorry, Lang, you're in Nishiwaki?
So
yes.
Yeah, I used to live in Nishiwaki. I'm also rural Hyogo, but I'm in Inagawa now.
Really?
Yeah. Not many people know
And we
Nishiwaki,
get to
but
meet
yeah,
each other?
I lived there for a number of years.
Oh, really? Well, sorry. Well, I'll
I'll talk to you
send
another
questions.
time.
I'll send you questions in the chat.
Privately, yeah.
Kevin, why don't you pop that question in the chat for now, and we'll get back to it.
And I'll quickly respond to that
Okay.
too. I mean, I'll say the same thing. Everyone's going to say, everyone's online.
Yeah.
I'd like to know the difference between using, I just use normal line, but the business line and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We use line at. Well, it's actually changed now. It's
Line for business.
Is it
Line for
it's called
business,
line
yeah.
for business? And
Essentially, the difference in line for business is you can control whether you broadcast or whether you accept chat, and you can set up pre-programmed question and answers. I think you do have to be careful. So basically, I would recommend broadcast only, because I don't know if you like chatting on text, but it can take up a lot of time.
Also, one of the important things difference is that before the business line information got to me, my Japanese assistant absolutely refused to go online because she didn't want the parents chatting between themselves. And so she doesn't mind the chat from the parents to her, but she didn't want the mothers talking, oh, why did this happen? Why did this happen? And so it was just, business line is a business account. So
yeah, I wouldn't want to get involved in I wouldn't want to give parents the ability to chit chat with each other, and then for me to look at that chit chat, like,
yeah.
that would be. Hi, Yoko, you're smiling down there. Simon, do you want to like continue on with?
Yeah, so that was
we'll
essentially before we up to and on the day of the lockdown and then closing. So the other thing, obviously, that we had to do was prepare what we were going to do. Were we going to just close the schools and not do anything, or make an alternative? So we decided to do all of our classes on Zoom. And obviously, again, we've got 10 schools, more than 10 teachers. We had to make sure that everybody had a Zoom account, that everybody knew how to use Zoom, how to access it. And we also had to coach students and parents into using Zoom. So I got in touch with Zoom and I asked them if we could have free professional accounts. And they said yes, which was very kind of them. They were doing this basically for everybody. If you didn't ask, you didn't get. But I did, and we did. And so that was a cost saving for everybody, but it also meant that, you could run your classes longer and have more participants. And then through a group of ICT Japanese teachers that I know, I'd been using Zoom at that point for just under a year for business meetings, showing software and products, publications, but I had never run classes on it. I'd participated in classes. I'd actually taken some classes in Japanese on how to use the iPad for teaching creative lessons using GarageBand, that kind of thing.
If I may, Simon, that 1 year experience with Zoom would have at least lent your mind to knowing the possibilities. Right.
Yeah, well, it meant that I didn't fear it as well, and I think that's the big thing for a lot of people. They're worried that they had to use new technology.
Yeah.
There's an acronym in there somewhere. Can't use new technology, so we attended some sessions that one school was giving to their parents and students. And that school owner coached our staff. We then coached all of our school owners. And then we had open Zoom meetings for parents and students to attend to get them used to the idea. We offered, because we were always intending on going back to face-to-face as soon as we possibly could, obviously not knowing when that was going to be. We didn't change any of our conditions other than extending the makeup period for students if they basically were scared and didn't want to come in. So we had a high take-up rate on Zoom lessons. We have a scheduling app, and we integrated Zoom into our scheduling app so that once students were inside our scheduling app, there was basically a Zoom button so they could go to their My Lessons page and just hit join, and they would go straight into the Zoom lesson, which meant we didn't have to set up any Zoom meeting rooms, and we didn't have to set up any passwords. And that was a massive, massive time saving. Up until that point, during the 2 weeks beforehand, we moved our Golden Week holiday forward to give us 2 weeks off so that we could prepare. And during that period, I was teaching between 3 and 5 free Zoom lessons a day for all schools, all students, just to get people used to it so they weren't scared of it. And in that period, we were using a Google Calendar and manually setting up Zoom meeting rooms and passwords. And it was pain, obviously looking at bringing in 10 schools with 25 classes a week or more for each one. So having Zoom integrated into our app was a huge saving. That app also sends automatic notifications to people, and they can cancel their own classes and things. So that's a massive, massive time saving as well.
When you were doing those 3 to 5 lessons a week for free.
Per day, Dave, per day.
Per day. How many students were coming to those roughly?
It was no more than 6 in any one lesson. I set the limit at 6. Our kids' classes are set at 6. Our adults are set at 4. One of the great things about that was we had students from different schools who met each other. And we've been doing this for 20 years. And our oldest franchise is like 17 years old. And I met some people from that franchise whose names I've known for that length of time, but I've never met them. So I met them face to face on Zoom for the first time. So that was really good, actually. We did build up a feeling of community around the school. But, I would set the theme for the lesson and say, if it was a kid's lesson, I would say in these grade or age ranges. But I basically never knew who was going to turn up. Yeah. So it was a lot of off-the-cuff stuff. We'd adapted some materials so we could teach them online. I was using my iPad and screen mirroring with the Apple Pencil and playing audio and using YouTube. And the iPad was great. The iPad on screen mirroring was absolutely fantastic. That really helped me out so that I could run games on that and I could highlight things. We also integrated a way to exchange work on the app, so we can send worksheets out. People could send them back in, we can mark them and send them back out, all through the app. So we weren't having to use lots and lots of different software. We deliberately decided to keep it as low tech as possible. I didn't use many cams or any cam, or I didn't use Flipgrid. I think I used like AC Timer and a couple of other little classroom management tools, but basically kept it as simple as I possibly could. Would open up a PDF, share it on the screen, use the whiteboard, and we'd done whiteboard use in coaching sessions, and you get used to deleting graffiti, and boys will be boys and they'll draw the unco digitally or with pencil on paper wherever they are. But it was good fun, and one thing that we took as an opportunity to do was to start to teach tech savviness, I suppose, and also to encourage kids to start to type, because this is a necessary skill that they're going to need, but they very rarely do it. So we've got them all typing on the whiteboard. We encouraged people, if they could, to get an iPad and an Apple Pencil, because all of a sudden we're doing device management and troubleshooting, and it was much easier to say that we can support these devices. But if you have an Android tablet, it could be any tablet, and anything could go wrong.
Right.
And we did get the odd call, like, I'm trying to join Zoom and I can't. What's going wrong? Well, could be one of a million. Could be one of a million things. So once we were up and running, it was pretty smooth, and we had high attendance. I don't have the figures in front of me, and it obviously changed the dynamic of the classes. But some people preferred it. Particularly, we were hearing that lots of junior high school students were performing better on Zoom than they ever had in the classroom. And that we had one interesting piece of feedback where I think this was a free lesson. One of our school students had attended one run by one of our franchisees, and he had some kind of technical failure. And and I think it was just a one-to-one. I think all the teacher and the student could do was communicate via chat and share the screen. And the student said she much preferred that because she didn't have to talk. So, so you know, you learn people's preferences quite a bit as well.
Yeah. I in slightly unrelated, but in one of my university classes, one of my students wrote in their final essay that they, during junior high and high school, they were very, very introverted and couldn't even go to class. So they found learning online was a big liberation for them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think some people really enjoyed it.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm happy to say that we didn't have any disasters. Nothing, you know, you anticipating possible technical faults, or the Wi-Fi, I was mainly on Wi-Fi, was always okay. Didn't really have any problems with the tech. Excuse me.
How long did this continue? You're online.
2 months. We were online basically 2 months.
2 months.
And then when the lockdown officially ended, we went back into the classroom.
And back in the classroom, did you maintain any of what you were able to do online?
So we offered those that were really, really cautious about coming back in, we gave them the option to come in on a hybrid lesson. So again, we put that into our app so that students can attend via Zoom whilst the others are in the classroom, which meant that we had to set the classrooms up for that. So either a big monitor or a projector. We didn't use the projector in the end. The monitor was sufficient because obviously it's important that the students can see each other. So we would have a second device plugged into a monitor on basically with no audio, so we could broadcast the screens to the classroom, and then the teacher would have a PC or a tablet in front of them so that they could actually talk to the student who was spotlighted when that was necessary. And that has actually worked pretty well.
Is our classes ongoing at this point, or do you have a summer vacation type of thing?
Yeah, we had a 2-week holiday. Well, yeah, we're back in. Yep. Well, the classes are on as we speak.
I wonder if we open it up for a little bit of like pre-closure, closure, and then we'll come back to the after closing and reopening maybe for a second part. Simon, what do you think of that?
Yep.
Because the reopening is a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, it is, absolutely, yeah.
Mary, yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to say that you said your school didn't have any technical difficulties. I was the same thing. I had to manually set up my 35 lessons, Zoom lessons. And first week went fine. I had a Japanese assistant there at all times. So if anybody couldn't get in, she was able to contact through line, through calling to get them in. The second week, I was trying to make the lessons even better. And I took one whole day of lessons and changed the settings where nobody could get in. I was all set. I was ready and nobody came in. I had changed the settings where only anybody who has authority can go in or something like that. Oh my gosh. And so I had people calling. I had no assistance here. And it was hell.
You really needed to call Jose at that point in time.
Oh, what did I do? And so I just, I had my assistant at her house online and telephone, and I just set up new meetings, sent out the new information quickly, and everybody was on within like 10 minutes into this new meeting settings. And I took all 3 classes in one meeting, one ID, one password, come in at your time. And the great thing was the parents were saying, oh, Mary, thank you so much. We're working so hard for us. And that is what I just wanted to put in, that the parents pretty much were thankful that their kids' education could continue.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, so.
Lang, how about you? Not your reopening, you closed.
Yeah.
You went online.
Yeah, I was really loath to do it. I had no idea. I didn't even have a computer. I had six iPads, no computer. So I ordered a computer, got straight onto Zoom, got straight onto OTJ. And once I had my number, the personal ID number, I just sent that to all my students. and said, the schedule is the same as usual at this time, put in this number. They didn't need a password or anything.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I will let you enter. And there were a few mix-up, but it wasn't major. We didn't have any problems. But what I did was I closed for the first couple of weeks and called that holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And then moved our year schedule down so that I don't have any holidays now. I don't have any summer holidays. And so students were able to continue paying their fee and not get their lessons, but it was a holiday anyway. So when we came back, it was only about 2 or 3 weeks that we did Zoom lessons.
Okay.
And by then everyone was well adjusted to the new situation. And everyone had had a bit of Zoom experience on other things with their local primary schools and so on. So yeah, it went really easily, and I still have 2 students doing Zoom lessons now.
Because they're not comfortable coming to the physical.
One is a new student that's distant from me, and one is a current student that was missing a lot of lessons because he was busy, and now he's coming to a Zoom lesson.
Okay.
Yeah, from his office.
Just a question. It looks like most of you folks aren't in Tokyo because the elementary schools closed on March 1st and didn't open until June 1st. So what's that? March, April, May, 3 months, elementary schools were essentially closed. And as a result, we were recommended, we could have stayed open, but we would have been really going against the grain. But we actually closed ahead of the elementary schools. And we didn't reopen until 2 weeks after elementary schools opened.
We'd made the decision early on when some of the elementary schools closed, some of them didn't. We made the decision that if the Gakudo stayed open, the after school program stayed open, that we would stay open because it just completely logically negated the school closure if the Gakudo was open. And most of the Gakudo nearby our head school were oversubscribed because all of a sudden people had more of a need for it. So we stayed open at that point, and it wasn't until the official nationwide lockdown request was made that we closed the schools.
Yeah, same.
We closed at that time, but here in Juteau, we had to close, I can't even remember now when, May maybe, when there was a cluster. Juteau is only 30,000 people, and they had over 100 in one day. And all hospital closed. I mean, it was a ghost town in this little village, you know.
You don't mind me asking, where is Chitose?
It's where the international airport is, an hour from Sapporo.
Okay, you're in Hokkaido.
Yeah, in Hokkaido. And so when all the hospitals closed, you got a cold, you couldn't go. Everything was closed down. Supermarkets closed, everything closed.
Wow.
And so, yeah, we opened for 1 week, but it was 3 months we were closed.
Okay.
Only on Zoom.
Okay. Kevin, your microphone's off.
Yes.
You did a little presentation for OTJ early on about your closing, opening, closing. You were juggling that a little bit. Could you tell us a little bit about how you managed that?
Yeah, well, actually, my wife did it all.
Good wife.
Okay.
Just
Can
like
you just bring your wife in here and you go have yourself a cup of coffee?
Actually, she just went shopping, but yeah, we basically just followed what the government had said about school closures and things like that. And yeah, we took a couple weeks off right away as soon as they put on the kind of quasi-national kind of lockdown or state of emergency. We closed down for 2 weeks, prepped, and then just went online with Zoom from then on. And wow, for a little while, and then we went to classes, regular classes. It got bad again, and then we went to Zoom, and then we as soon as it kind of got better here in Kagawa, we started with regular classes again. So we kind of did a little bit of a yo-yo there.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't speak to you directly about that, but it seemed that that was what was happening. You're back
Yeah.
you're back face to face now.
Yeah, we're back in face to face, and but I mean, I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be going back online come fall and winter. So that's, you know, part of the reason I came here today. I just want to kind of keep in touch with people and kind of you know, stay in the Zoom loop.
Hopefully we'll get to that, the future, before this ends today. Yoko, how about yourself? Are you you're a school owner as well?
Yes, actually, I closed the face-to-face session from April 1st to May 31st, and then I switched to the Zoom session. But some mother who are low tech complain how to use Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So I help those mothers through line chatting to set up. And the most trouble was, the different type of the PC and then the search engine. I was not good at that technology, but I getting better and better to support each mother to start using Zoom. So that's why I and my students' mother made a strong bonding thanks to the kind of troubleshooting.
Okay.
That's why I think it's better for school owners and school parents to communicate well, because we have to do the remote session. And also I could see the other silver lining thanks to the Zoom session. I asked all family members to start the Ninja project to help family, because school kids had to stay home for 2 months in Nagoya area.
Yeah.
So our mother was so hectic to make breakfast, lunch, dinner. So I and my student created the Ninja project to help mother by cooking breakfast, and then make the small presentation and upload the Flipgrid. So I think I and my student really enjoyed to do the Flipgrid project, even though we did the remote class.
Right.
That's my school episode.
Well, that's pretty nice. You turned it into more than just an English lesson. You turned it into a community experience, which I think is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Michelle, are you also a language school teacher? Yeah, I've got a school here. I managed, our schools also closed down the beginning of March. We had absolutely no cases up this way. So I kind of stretched out the lessons for March, and told parents, we'll see how things go, and made sure masks were worn, things like that. So we got through March lessons. Then from April through to June, so for 3 months I went online, and I didn't have too much trouble. The last 2 weeks of March I had as my spring holidays anyhow. So I was busy preparing to go online then. I assumed that that's what was going to happen. And I talked to a lot of different people, and different people had different ways of doing things, and a lot of other friends that have lessons, their own schools and whatnot. I decided that I wasn't going to give any choice to the parents. I was continuing my lessons. They were going online. And I had no one oppose it in the end. I think I had one student that said, okay, I don't think we'll continue. And then a week later, she said, okay, yes, we will. So that was really good. It was 100%. And what I did in those 2 weeks is I made a homework package, so to speak, and I actually hand delivered it to all my students. They live within 30 minutes of where I live. So I just used my holidays that way, and it had photocopies of how to log on to Zoom in various different, if they're on their phone, on the tablet or whatever. and just gave as much information as I can to make it easier for the parents. And there were no big struggles. I think there was one technological difficulty one day where I happened to be booted out of Zoom. The kids were still there, they were laughing, saying, you know, what's happening? And I was booted off Zoom, so they had a ball. But that was the only thing, no troubles whatsoever. A couple of students that perhaps were a little bit shyer, because their parents and their brothers and sisters were around watching the lesson, they struggled a little bit, and I sort of just kept in touch with the parents and said, perhaps try to put them in a different room, and then they excelled a bit better. And some that just, really excelled and wanted to go online even longer. And I've sort of, and at the end of it, because I found a lot of parents did actually struggle. A lot of them were using telephones, their mobile phones, which was hard. It was very hard for the kids to see. And so at the end, I ended up buying a gift for the mothers as well, just for, you know, putting up with it all. But I kept class times the same as normal, nothing changed there. And most parents were just so grateful that their kids could do something, you know, because everything else was cancelled. Swimming lessons were cancelled, Juteau was cancelled. So I was really happy. It was a lot of work, but, you know.
It's kind of interesting because when I'm listening to you guys talk, you're talking about how appreciative the parents were. And my school closed, period, for 3.5 months. No lessons, no online lessons. And when we were done, the parents were so appreciative. Now, I don't know if that's because we're in Tokyo and the numbers are higher and the fear was higher or whatever, but people...
I think it also shows that if you ask somebody a question, they'll often give you the answer that they think that you want.
Perhaps. I don't know. I doubt my wife ever asked.
Yeah. There's lots of data on that, actually, about how people basically lie when they're asked a direct question.
Yeah, she wouldn't have asked. She would have just gotten feedback from people because they willingly gave it, I'm sure, because she's not that kind of person. But
right. I think the thing to take out of all of this, if anything, is that you have to make a decision. The earlier you can make your decision, the better. And the clearer you can communicate that to everybody. And once you've made your decision, stick to it. Don't flip-flop, you know. Yeah. And if people want to continue with you, they will. If they don't, if they've probably already been thinking about leaving for some other reason, something like this could be an opportunity for them to do that. So I think if just make your decision, stick to your guns, and people will respect that. What people don't want is uncertainty. Yeah, that's the worst thing. That's
a very good point, and that's probably how it was. Now, somebody had mentioned that they made bundles of worksheets and hand delivered them. Yeah, Michelle. So I did the same thing with PDF files. I put together a worksheet series, and every couple of weeks I just emailed them out. And they could do them on their own and then send them back, and I would check them and send them back. But I did that in 3.5 months, maybe 3 times. I made a couple of little video things just to keep them engaged a little bit, and that was all free. I spent an afternoon every 2 weeks to put some stuff together just to keep them in the loop. And we had a little rainbow contest where they had a color rainbow, stay safe, stay positive, and we stuck that out on the school wall, took pictures and put it on our webpage. So we kept them engaged a little bit. But like Simon, that's a good point Simon made. We made a decision. We're closed until the elementary schools open again.
It's very clear. Yeah. And also that's a smart decision to make, because you're sort of not abdicating responsibility, but the decision is made by government or prefecture, and you follow those guidelines. So the parents will absolve you of any blame for that decision. So it's a smart move. So,
and frankly, because I had 5 mornings of university classes to contend with as well, there was no way I was going to be able to do both. And there was absolutely no way that OTJ would have started if I was doing online university, online Juteau's English school. So it worked out. And fortunately, the government compensated us.
Yeah. And has everybody come back? Oh, you're not open yet?
We didn't lose one student.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So that all worked out. But that probably brings us to now and the future.
Okay, I'm here now.
The camera's on.
My camera's on.
Sorry,
My camera's on.
You missed all the good stuff.
No, I didn't. I was listening.
Okay, good. So you're also a school owner?
Yes, I am. I have a small school, maybe 20 students.
Okay.
So when I got the go ahead at university, I started studying how to use Zoom right away. That was April. And then I kind of waited. I didn't close. I took a different kind of approach. I just waited for the parents. I waited for the private students to make their own decision. And half came to my office and half went on Zoom. So it was really interesting.
And how long did that last, the Zoom sessions? For how many?
It's still going on. The students that decided to go on Zoom prefer Zoom, and the live students who prefer live continued live. So I actually got more students live, and I want the Zoom students to come back to my office, but they're like, no, this is convenient. I don't have to leave my house. I was like, no.
So that would be the hybrid method, right? Is that what you would call that, Simon? Hybrid, where you're teaching face-to-face and?
Yeah, hybrid we used to refer to face-to-face and Zoom in one class.
Yeah, but I don't. I have private students, so those private students decided just to stay at home, and I said, no, please come to my office.
Okay.
And they're like, not yet.
You need to read up on the nudge theory, Teresa.
What's that?
Nudge
theory?
Nudge.
Nudge. Yeah. I have said that. But one woman says that she actually goes to Tokyo a lot, and so she doesn't want to bring it back to my office. And I said, okay. That's good thinking. The children, the mother is like, I don't have to drive, so I'm going to keep my kid at home. I was like, okay, great.
It's a bit easier with private lessons, I think, than it would be with group lessons.
Yeah. I'm mainly a private teacher now. I used to have a lot of groups, but over the last couple of years, everybody kind of, I don't know, I promoted in a couple of magazines, so I got a lot of private students.
Well, private's good too.
So
what I found is all of my private lessons in the students' homes that were groups too, because almost all the fathers and mothers were doctors treating coronavirus patients.
God.
So I actually went into for Skype lessons, Zoom lessons, not Zoom, before Zoom, everything FaceTime in February, because the fathers were working with patients and they didn't want anybody endangered, including me. So a lot of time when somebody decides to stay on Zoom, there is a reason they want to keep.
Yep. No, those are very good reasons to stay on Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, who would? So here we are. What are we in? This is August, and if your school's not closed or not on summer break, you're getting ready to go back, or you're still open, and the fall. What do we call it? Cold and flu season will intermingle with Corona season, I suppose. That's the suspicion.
Yeah.
Although I have a theory, and may I present it? The theory is this.
If everybody's wearing masks, the flu is going to be way less.
That's what I think. People are washing their hands.
In Australia, there's hardly any flu this year. So usually it comes from the south. And so I assume that, it will be a no issue.
Now that everybody's pretty much face-to-face, right? Is that correct? Yeah. How are you running your face-to-face school in terms of the logistics of taking temperatures, keeping things clean, keeping the air?
So, again, we prepared before we went back, and we sent out the precautions that we'd be taking, because we basically wanted people to come back.
Yeah.
So we sent out the precautions that we'd be taking, which meant that we closed the lobby. We didn't allow parents to come in. They could only drop off and collect and wait outside. Obviously,
keep that rule.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we will do, absolutely. Yeah. Well, you know, there's balance between the community and all of that.
Yeah.
But obviously, we're washing hands. We have hand cleanser out. Everybody uses it. We take everybody's temperature on the way in. We have acrylic screens where we can't do 2 meters of social distancing. Otherwise, we're doing 2 meters of social distancing. We have banned games where any object is passed from hand to hand. And so that's meant one of the spaces upstairs we've widened out, and we've got little small desks for the kids to sit out, and we've got tape so you can see the 2 meters. And we've got the windows open and the air conditioner's on now because it's boiling hot. We just got back into school on Monday. Or was it no? Anyway, the first day after some holidays, and put the air conditioner on, boom, and it just went because it's too hot. It's been overworked. So new air conditioners, windows open, and we're basically following the Osaka Prefecture guidelines for Juteau and other schools, which talk about classrooms up to 10. So wherever you are, there will be prefecture guidelines on the website. And it's a good idea to follow those and go above them in some way if you can. And we've had a very, very good uptake. Everybody is back except for 2 students out of all of our schools who are attending in hybrid lessons.
That's a success. You can get the Tokyo award for safety.
Yeah, what was your experience with that? Because I gather you're quite proud of this new.
Yeah, no, again, it's a Kevin story because my wife did all that. It's just on the Tokyo government website. They have a section where it's self-reporting. If you're following all these steps, which are the ones you just described, then they award you with a little certificate that you can stick on your school to let parents and other community members know that you're following the guidelines of the Tokyo government.
So it's not so much bring out your dead as bring in your live, because we're safe. Yeah.
So
is that Tokyo only?
That's what we did that, and we got the little certificate. So I always anything that promotes the school, I stick it up. And
there are no national guidelines, Lang. It's all either prefecture, city, or even ward. It depends on the type of organization you have.
No, is there an award?
It's not an award. It's like
in other prefectures.
Oh, you'd have to look.
Right. Okay.
On the prefecture website. I mean, it's not an award, is it? It's a it's a certificate of compliance or something.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Thank you.
A certificate of compliance, and
which is much like what a anyway. No, don't let
me. We also, in addition to that, we continue to implement the same policy we have all year round. If you've got a fever, a sniffle, a cold, any kind of symptoms, flu, or anybody in your house, stay home. You'll get your money back, or you can do a makeup lesson. We always had that in place anyway, because we never want to get sick anytime. Because when you're the sole teacher and you're running, doing university classes, getting sick for one day is enough to knock you off your feet. So anybody in your family who's sick with any symptoms, runny nose, anything, stay home. And that's the policy.
Like I said, in January, I went to the school owners conference, and I came back with the flu. Okay. Yeah, I got out of Hokkaido and went to Tokyo and got the flu.
I was at that conference.
Oh, did you get the flu too?
No, I only stayed for half though, because I was a little bored and I left.
And
that was this February or this January?
January, yeah. January. So I came back on January, taught all day Tuesday. I taught Tuesdays. On Wednesday, I gave the flu to my students.
Nice one.
Oh yeah. And because
But at least you weren't so bored at the conference you had to leave, like Dave.
Yeah, no, the line presentation was the second day, and
I wasn't presenting, so I knew it would be boring, so I didn't go.
And that I didn't quite know you weren't coming, but
Sorry,
Yeah.
Mary.
Anyway, so yeah, it's even without symptoms, I was still giving it. And so, yeah. But I want to ask you, Simon, about your plastic borders between your tables and all. I mean, I bought this stuff, but we're using these tables that we can move around. And how are you putting any sort of plastic on individual tables?
So it's only where we can't do 2 meters social distancing. So across, we've got some, like for the adults tables, so you basically, like you would be sitting across a family restaurant or a dinner table. So we've got the acrylic sheets we got from the home center or online, and we pin them to the, attach them to the ceiling, and they come down as a divider. So they're basically, there's two, I don't know, basically the ceilings are quite low, so it goes ceiling to table. And it's a bit weird at first, but you get used to it.
yeah, we
I had similar. I had it between the desks, but it was actually the kids that said to me, "We've all got masks on. Why do you bother having the plastic sheets there?" And so I ended up taking them off the desks because it was just one extra thing to clean. But I make sure the kids have masks on and they have them on properly. I threaten them, you know, you're out if it's below your nose or what have you.
This is an example of us setting up our little dividers.
Yeah.
That's what I had. Similar.
Right.
So
But I
yeah,
took them off.
yeah. We don't use it for the junior high class because the junior high class kids actually just sit. We take the tables right out and we do the 2 meter social, distancing. But that way we can get more kids in. Actually, we have a very big room.
I think everybody understands, and there is taking temperatures and all of that. How accurate is your thermometer? Parents appreciate it. I think everybody appreciates it. There is a certain amount of performance to all of this. However, if you're not seen to be doing, it's worse than not doing. But we want to be as cautious as we possibly can. The last thing anybody needs is somebody coming in sick or getting an outbreak for lots of different reasons. I don't want anybody to get sick in any of my schools, and I don't want anybody, if somebody did get sick, I would hate word to get out because that would just kill the business. It would be the end. But obviously the most important thing is everybody's health in the first case, right?
I think so, yeah.
One of the unique things that I have been able to do, because I'm in Hokkaido with space and not the humidity of Tokyo, I've taken the kids all outside. And luckily I ran summer camps. And so I had all the equipment, plastic chairs and picnic tables and everything. And so almost every day, and they're outside, I have a covered patio outside here or to the city park that's a block away. And we've just taken over one little corner of the park. And so that is one thing that social distancing became really social, really out in the wilds.
I have speaking of kids, little kids, I have a question for you, since the folks who have gone online. How did you manage with the really younger kids? I mean, I can see, Yonensei and up handling it pretty well, but when you get down to the, Ichinenseis or pre-Ichinensei.
We were doing kindergarten as well. I was actually teaching kindergarten classes for another school who'd asked us to help out. They know our materials pretty well, so they'd asked me to do it. Me, of all people.
You, Simon.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, God.
And get this, though. My kindergarten classes were so popular with those kids that took them that they asked me to continue after lockdown. I couldn't believe it.
Simon, would you like to teach my kindergarten kids?
I'm 25,000 yen an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm 9,000 yen an hour for a private lesson.
I'm only 6, apparently.
Simon and I are in the same.
Yeah.
Simon,
So anyway, I've started face-to-face with my kindergarten kids. I'm using Happy Valley. So it's a matter of, I did not start back up until July with my kindergarten kids.
So, what we did.
Mary, when? I'm just going, I can't do it on Zoom.
Kindergarten, actually, I find much easier in lots of ways than some of the older kids. I think early elementary, that's probably the best stage because the kids are just lovely, But Kindergarten worked, I thought, really well on Zoom. So obviously we've got our curriculum that we use. Lots of people use different sorts of resources. Ours has a lot of video on YouTube, and so we could follow through that.
Yeah.
But then I just used to try and do activities like, you know, you can pass things through the screen to a 3-year-old. They just completely believe that, you know, and show and tell, you know, sort of like I would just run off screen, grab something, and run off screen, go and grab something, come back and tell me what it is. Loads of that. And that, you know, it takes up a bit of time as well, you know. The biggest advantage that, in terms of running the school, not the biggest, but one of the great things about teaching the kids while they're in the home with their parents there is the parents can see what their kids do and how they reacted to the teacher. And we had parents saying, I had no idea my kid could speak English that well, you know, so that was a huge advantage having the parents in the room. It can be distracting. They get a bit older and they start to ask mum, you know, so we had to start coaching the parents to not to interrupt, but the kindergarten lessons I really enjoyed. Wouldn't want to do it for a living. Not all day, every day, but I didn't find too many problems with it. I think having a set curriculum that you can use as a framework and add to really helps with that. Plus, I think one thing that we've got to remember is that I've said this several times, but we've got 21st century kids with 20th century teachers and sometimes a 19th century curriculum. Those children, even if they're 3, they're completely used to a small screen with a human being on it or an animated character on it or a TikTok video or something. So it's nothing new to them. So as long as you can keep them engaged on the screen, you'll be fine. That was my experience. Anyway, how about others?
Anybody else? Yeah, with the younger kids.
Yeah, I did baby classes on Zoom, and that was hit and miss.
Well,
but I mean, baby classes live are hit and miss. But what I did was I gave my students the option to have a 10-minute session every day. So instead of their once a week Friday morning lesson, every morning I came on Zoom and anyone could join or not, and we screen sharing YouTube videos is great. Happy Valley videos, I have to push that because that's what I was using. It was great. And sometimes my 10 minutes went to 30 minutes. It just depended on the kids that day. But then the next day it could have been, you know, a disaster. But just giving them that option kept the customer happy and put it on them to participate or not participate. But they were happy to come back to live lessons.
That's great.
Kinder was easy, exactly like Simon said. I think the biggest surprise was the older kids that really came out in Zoom. Like they just say nothing in class and all of a sudden it's, and today I had udon and it was delicious and it was
no in-class peer pressure,
And then they've come back to class again. They're a little bit more than they were before, a little bit more outgoing, but they're slipping back into that. I'll just sit back and let everyone else do everything.
Michelle, did you have something to add there?
Oh, I was just going to add that mine were, I think, successful as well. They weren't my favorite class to teach. They took a lot of energy being online, but they do anyhow. I said to the parents, especially with the kindy kids, instead of a 50-minute lesson, let's focus on getting at least 20 to 30 minutes. And if we get more, we get more. And then if it didn't, you know, if I could see the kids not sort of focusing or the parents getting frustrated, those that were in the room with the kids, especially if the kids weren't paying attention, the parents were struggling, I gave them another 20-minute activity to do, whether it be the workbook they were working on, or if we did counting in the class, okay, go out and count the flowers in your garden, go out and do this, you know, go for a walk. And then they would send me photos back through Zoom or communicate, not through Zoom, sorry, through Line, or send a voice message or something like that with the remaining time. So I was making myself available, but Zoom was off. And in the beginning, yes, it was sort of 20, 30 minutes and it was sort of stretching it. We'd go through the usual songs, TPR, you know, a little bit of workbook, and then an extra activity. But at the end of the 3 months, 50 minutes and I was like, oh shit, you know, we've got to turn this off now. I've got to go to my next class. So the kids got used to it eventually. And as I just wrote in the chat, like they have come back to face-to-face classes just so grown up and even more focused in class. And I don't know if that's coincidence or not, but yeah, very grateful for the time online with them.
Yeah, I think you know, children obviously are very adaptable. It's going to be the parents or the teachers that struggle more, I think, sometimes, not always, obviously.
In terms, Michelle, in terms of when my kids came back after 3.5 months, I noticed, I think it was the whole Zoom or no, the whole COVID-19 thing. Everyone was like really well behaved and really like, you know, really focused.
How grateful they are to be, you know, doing these.
It might
have somewhere to
it could
go.
be various reasons, but it was like, okay, this isn't too bad at all. I mean, you know, I was expecting a lot worse. You know, trying to manage kids that haven't had school for 3.5 months, but something about COVID-19 might have made them snap into a bit of a
Grow up, in a sense.
Kevin, you teach preschool kids too?
Yeah, actually we teach from babies, but we didn't do babies online and we didn't do kindergarten first year online. And even now we're not doing babies. We actually sent out a survey to the parents and more than half of them didn't want to start the babies class. About 2 months ago, we did a similar survey and they wanted to start in September, almost everybody, but we did it just last week. We sent out another survey and more than half didn't want to start. They'd rather wait until next April.
Yep.
So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Simon.
With the babies.
Microphone on, Simon.
I just mute myself as I raise my hand. Can I just add something about surveys here?
Sure.
Customer surveys are not a good idea. You're probably only going to get 50% of your customers respond to them. And as lots of data shows, people will not answer a survey with their real opinion. They will answer with either what's expected of them or what they think you want them to hear. Somebody had written somewhere that they'd done a survey of 1,000 of their students and they were really pleased that they had an 80% approval rate from the 450 that replied. Tells you nothing. What about the 550 that didn't reply? What are they thinking? And the 80% of the 450 that replied favorably, probably half of them said that because they thought that's what you wanted to hear. I'm not saying don't do them. I'd be very, very careful about being led by customer surveys. For data, to get a real opinion, you need a random sample of over 1,000 people unconnected, and that will give you real data. So try and find surveys online that have been done anonymously in big samples. I understand that you've got your customer's best interests at heart, and you're never thinking about your bottom line, right? I understand that, yeah, I don't think it's the best way to go about things. I think if you make decisions that are reasonable and you stick to them, I think you'll be okay.
That comes back to your decisiveness thing.
But
people don't want choice. People want the illusion of choice. People want to be told what to do.
Yeah, well, the thing is with the babies, it's just safe. I thought this way, if a little kid got sick, I just wanted it to be known that I gave the choice to the parents so that it's not going to come back to me. Oh, Kevin wanted to make money or he's worried about.
I think the thing is they always have the choice,
which
right?
is not true. I just didn't want it to appear like that for sure.
They always have the choice. They can always choose not to come. They can always choose to disengage from your business because they're a customer. They always have that choice.
Yeah, but just for reputation and just how it looks to the public, I would rather kind of have it like that. If one kid did get, actually everybody did reply. So we
Kevin,
could.
what if they said that they wanted to come?
What's that?
What if they decided that they all wanted to have a lesson? What was your decision as a operator, a school operator?
Well, if there were. Probably, well, we were teaching, we have 2 babies classes. I'm the only teacher. We have 2 babies classes. There's 6 kids in each class. If the way I was going by it, if 5 people in each class would have said, yes, I would have done it. That's kind of what I was going by. So I was kind of weighing my, what I do towards kind of closing those classes actually. So it wasn't just 50%, more than 50% said, yes, I'd open the class. It was actually, it would have had to be 5 out of 6. So that's what I was planning on doing.
You're not disappointed that you close them?
I didn't really want to teach, but actually some, like I said, a couple months ago, some others were sending us emails. We can't wait for the classes to start. My kids miss you, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, regarding, you know, finances, I mean, I'm a business owner. I have some money put in the bank, emergency funds. If you don't, that's, you know, that's too bad.
There's absolutely, yeah, of course, we're all running a business and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You know, you've got to take that into consideration as well.
But I didn't worry about it, and I'm happy that I'm not teaching. They can't social distance. They've got their fingers in their mouths and things like that. So yeah, I'm not sad that that class is closed at all. Yeah, I miss the little guys though.
Yeah. Simon, you did put your hand up there.
Yeah, I was just going to, we've got about 20 minutes left. So I was going to suggest that we move this along a little bit. Lang had put into the chat a question about recruitment. And I think if we can look at how COVID-19 is going to affect us as business owners moving forward, I think that might be helpful to everybody. For our part, recruitment right from February, when news of COVID broke, has been very, very low. I think I wrote about this in my blog. We close our books at the end of July, and we're actually a few percentage points up on revenue for that part, but that's more due to keeping people. There is a customer lifetime, of course, and people leave, and if you're not recruiting at some point, you're going to decrease. So recruitment for us has been really, really low at the moment. And so that's going to have a knock-on effect to next April. It remains to be seen as to whether people will want to go and join face-to-face schools for the coming academic year next spring. If they don't, we're all in trouble, and things will just start decreasing.
It's a very good point, Simon. Especially our school, for whatever reason, September and October, we always have a burst of intake every year in the fall, and I wonder how that would that'll pan out this year.
We do too as well. Although since we've refocused mainly our recruitment to the beginning of this academic year, it's lessened, but definitely September, October there's a bump, and so we're starting our promotion for that now. And one of the things that if anybody's ever seen me talk on a owners forum or at Juteau, I always talk about. People always ask about marketing and what's effective, you know, and in the lifetime of our schools, flyers have been the most successful. They've decreased, obviously, as other, this is historical data, right? So the percentage has decreased as other things have become important. Even still, up until COVID broke, when we stopped handing out flyers at the station, we were getting a new student a week from flyers handed out at the station. We haven't handed out a flyer at the station since February, and we're not intending on doing it now either, because it's not socially the time to be preferring flyer from hand to hand. So if anybody does hand out flyers, that's obviously you've got to compensate for that in some other way. With advertising. So Teresa's holding up a magazine here. Obviously, each location is different. We have found that print doesn't work for us very well at all. We do posting. We put flyers inside magazines rather than adverts in magazines. We do posting flyers. We now do targeted web ads, which are pretty effective in getting hits, but converting those hits on the website into free trials is harder and harder. But my outlook is that I'm expecting a rough year, a very rough year.
Just to add to the flyer thing, I haven't done flyers in a decade, and this spring in January we decided let's do a flyer this year. So I've got boxes and boxes and boxes of flyers printed up for which were for the April, campaign season that never got out, and they never will get out. They'll just
mark a pen across April and put them out there.
Teresa.
Hi. Can I?
You certainly can.
What about putting your pamphlet? What about putting your pamphlet in coffee shops, cake shops, where the mothers meet each other.
Well, are they going to coffee and cake shops during COVID-19 like they would normally?
Yeah, they are. They are.
You're not in Tokyo, Teresa. I can
So
tell.
yeah, that's what I've done. I have my flyers in the cake shops and
Okay.
the coffee shops.
Nice.
I think
Michelle, you got something.
And plus the gift.
it's good. It's good
Juteau
advice. And
magazine
this
helps
is
a
all
lot.
fairly standard community marketing stuff that everybody should be doing all the time anyway. Is it going to be effective now? Are there other things to do?
Does anybody do anything via Instagram or Facebook, or does anybody do any advertising that way?
Michelle, Michelle had your hand up there.
I was just going to say, as a parent, I just don't think this is the year to be sending your child to something new.
Right.
So I don't think, I've got 2 children. My daughter, what she wants to do Juku, she wants to do this and that. She wants to do tennis. And I've just sort of said to her, it's a write-off this year. Right. And it's not finance. It's just, let's just focus on getting through this year mentally, with all the other things you're doing. And I don't know, sadly, as a business, I don't think it's
not a year for growth, it's a year for survival. That's what I heard.
It's like build on what you've got now, focus on your people now, and start afresh next year is my thinking as a parent and a business owner.
Yeah, that I think that's a fairly reasonable. Lang.
I wonder, Michelle, would you as a parent be open to online?
This is the next thing I was going to bring up. So
and the Jukus that we started to look at sort of January, February, because my daughter's starting junior high next year. We ended up not going to all the taikens, that sort of thing. It just didn't happen. And they keep contacting you. But it's always at bad times. So I'm always like, oh, shit, I've just got to teach in a minute. In the end, I had one Juku sort of say to me, we offer online. And I said, call me back at a certain time. So yes, if someone's offering online options, I will listen more. But I'm still that far away from definitely doing something this year. As a parent, maybe next year.
How many people here are going to advertise online services from now? That was a half there, Michelle.
Maybe no one wants to tell.
Undecided. I'm considering it.
And if so, how do you feel you can differentiate, given that there are?
That was my next question.
There were up to 200 online schools. Some of them selling lessons for several hundred yen for 20 minutes.
I might try to sell my school. Grant, you're on my side, aren't you, down there? Grant, we haven't heard from you at all. I mean, are you a school owner as well?
Yeah, sorry. Lot going on at my school right now. And yeah, I know Mary, I know Simon, so those that know me know where I stand on a lot of issues already. Probably a little different than most schools in many different ways, but fundamentally, I think we're all the same. We're in the same boat. But I just had so many problems recently with staffing and issues I'm working on. And so the reason I put my thumb up when you said that, David, is because my wife and I have talked to Simon about this a few years ago, I think it was, about fading out of the industry and looking for people who might be interested in taking over. We have a great school down here. It's just, I'm getting tired of all the crap. And Mary, kudos to you for doing it for so long. We've done it for 3 decades, and like I said, I'm on the back end of it.
Yeah, well, Grant, my wife and I are on summer vacation right now, and those conversations are going on daily because she's about to reach the age of 60, and I'm not far behind her. And it's, I've actually spoken to Simon about this last year a little bit, but I didn't know him well enough to talk frankly,
to trust him further than you could throw him.
Yeah, I guess right. I couldn't. You took the words out of my mouth.
Well, you know, both of you guys, even before all this, I'd already been calculating, okay, my little first graders are going to probably be with me for 6 years, 8 years. Wait, I'm 62 now.
Right. Wow.
Wait, 70, 72, 75, 80? You know, it's just how long? And you don't take on a group of little ones and knowing that, oh, in 3 years, you're going to say, sorry, we're finished.
It's the same reason they don't let people get a dog after the age of 65, I think.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Because they might not.
It's a very good point, you know. And do you see your school as a business that you would want to sell on to somebody else and to take responsibility for those learners? Or if you make the decision that you're just going to retire and close, will you stick it out until everybody's got through grade 6? You know, I speak to a lot of school owners, and many of whom thinking about selling or leaving, and they all say, oh, you know, my first concern is the students. And then you start to talk about price, and they soon start talking about money and selling the school. And I don't think they're honest when they say the first concern is the students. Of course, the students are a massive concern, but I wonder how many school owners would say, right, from April, I'm not going to recruit any more students, and I'm going to stay there until my current students have left. I'd be very surprised if many would do that.
Not I. If we close, we'll close it based on our personal reasons, not on the. Yeah. There's a million other language schools the kids could go to if they really want to.
I think, you know, and that's a good point. It's like in terms of you know. Redundancy, right? Sort of my uncle was involved in a lot of redundancies, but his main aim was to make sure that everybody found another job. So I think it's possible to do that. You can find other schools for your students. I think, Grant, you were raising your hand there.
Well, I was just going to say, I would be the one of those that would do that, like I said. But you know, when you said they don't put the student first, I totally agree with your assessment there.
Right.
They do. And for us, what I would ultimately like to see is someone coming in and taking it over gradually while I'm still sort of young and still have some energy, and introduce them to the staff and the parents, you know the deal, and do that smooth transition. And we have very little overhead that we had in the school to begin with. And, you know, it's just, when I see, you guys all know how parents are nowadays, and it's just a hectic environment to work and try to explain things to parents.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Say again, please?
How old are you?
I'm 53, actually.
Okay.
What a good age to be.
Yeah, Simon, we're the same. I remember that.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, you know, I have other options, and, you know, again, other businesses and stuff too. So it's not like I'm just going to crawl under a rock and, you know, disappear. There's other things I would like to pursue. Nothing too aggressive, obviously, but just the hassle. I want to get out of the hassle. That's the biggest thing for me.
Just to answer Yuki's question in chat there, yeah, the online competition certainly comes from teachers in the Philippines, often going through Japanese companies, but also if you look at all the number of juku that are going online and offering English classes that way as well, and many of them may use a supplier. And I think the other thing is the after-school care. It's much easier to add on extra services to your juku or your swimming school or your dance school, and everybody now knows that you can do it via Zoom, and any teacher can teach from anywhere. So the competition is going to increase. Jose, you had your hand up there.
First, hi everybody. I'm sorry I came late, so I don't really know what was going on in the conversation before. But I actually wanted to talk a little bit about what Yuki-san was asking about the Philippines, but Simon already answered that, so thank you. But I had a bit of a variation on that concern about online services being available from all around the world from a different perspective, because I wanted to be one of these online services that are available from all around the world. And if I was to establish a school, it wouldn't be a traditional sort of private language school that we've known for the past 30, 35 years, like what you guys are running. I was thinking about all of the concerns that you guys are throwing out there, and including things like my age, 58. And the fact that I don't know if I'm very good with little toddlers and stuff like that. But I thought that if I was to establish something that would qualify as a private language school. Maybe you guys can tell me if I'm crazy or not. But it's to take advantage of the online situation, online awareness, or awareness by parents about the availability and quality of online services, and actually become a vendor of such, specifically for junior high school and high school kids who are now lined up and might even be in a bit of a panic mode about the potential for the ministry to actually bring down speaking sections to all of the entrance exams for high school and for large universities. And this time they actually seriously have to potentially, if the ministry gets it right, they have to seriously learn how to be able to speak. And I think those services usually are wrapped up with ACAN services, or they're wrapped up with IELTS services or IELTS testing. But maybe you guys can give me a bit of an opinion on what it would be like to actually market yourself.
I think I'm going to be talking about this tomorrow, and Dave and Jose have already had an insight into this, but we will be starting a new online school. But the idea for that is you can study what you want, when you want, how you want, with whom you want. And that certainly, Jose, would be part of the needs that people would have. I think the challenge is going to be to provide a big array enough of choice to gather people together in one place. I think it, otherwise, if you set yourself up as, say, Jose's online junior high school fluency school, shorten that somewhat, perhaps, your initial marketing might be quite a challenge, you know, because there's a lot of competition, and advertising online has become increasingly expensive. We see the bids for AdWords for clicks, it's pay for click basically, right, is more than quadrupled in 18 months for the price of a click through. And that will only increase. So differentiation and targeted marketing, as ever, is key.
I could add something to that, Jose, which only because I started teaching TOEFL classes for first-year students 2 years ago at university who want to study overseas. So I'm getting to see what they need from a speaking point of view. The speaking part of TOEFL is very important, and you can see the weaknesses that they have when they come in. You know, they're level 3. They think they know a lot, but they haven't been able to spit out something in 45 seconds, 120 words in 45 seconds about a topic of interest or whatever. So there's certainly, if universities begin to use TOEFL or IELTS or whatever for their entry exam, students will certainly need preparation for that outside of what they're getting now, because I don't think a lot of people understand exactly what it is they need to do.
Yeah, in a nutshell, Jose, yeah, specialization would be excellent though for online, absolutely, yeah. And I don't know how many students you would have in one class, but if you could get the word out and you are specialized and you can prove that you can do the job, and I'm sure you can, word of mouth should generate enough in a blog and a YouTube page.
I'm going to talk to you about that, Simon.
Sure.
Kevin.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of add, like what Jose was saying, if he was going to start up something, it would be online right now. And I'm 49, almost 50. If I were 40, I'd be looking very closely at online classes. But now that I'm 50, I'm probably going to retire, semi-retire at 60. That's the plan anyway. I'm just going to keep going with the face-to-face or, you know, some hybrid classes. But if I were younger, I'd be putting in a lot of time looking at online. So that's basically all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Kevin. I don't know if my age has a factor, or certainly my wife's age has a factor, but then I look at somebody like Simon, who's not that far distance from me in age, and he's just right out there ready to, you know, try new things and get them moving.
I'm easily bored. That's my problem. I always want something new to do.
Yeah. Well, I always got my guitar in the background ready, waiting for me to.
I'm rubbish at killing time.
Grant.
I either do nothing or I'm really busy.
Sorry, Grant.
So just something, you know, if I could add so what we do for the online, I'm very, you know, supportive of the online environment, but I do agree the competition is pretty tough. And my daughter teaches or manages at a school in Tokyo that does the online, where they bring people in from the Philippines or do online there. And what they pay them is ridiculous. And there's no way we we could compete with that here in Japan. Just, you know, take it for whatever advice you want. But what we do with our online program is we use it for the same price. We don't reduce the price or anything, but just as kind of like a one cushion, or kind of that interim period of time that we can use when the infection is at its severest, for parents who are worried about coming to the school. That's what we use it for. It's just that kind of like a patch, if you will, or a bridge to get them through these troubled times.
Right.
I'm not saying that it's not a wave of the future. I agree with that. It's definitely something that should be.
I think, well, you know, the future being, say, the short-term future is next April. Between now and April, the midterm future will be the next 5 years. The next 10 years, the industry's most certainly going to change. You know, there's no doubt about that.
I will be talking more about this in the session on Wednesday, but I don't know if you saw the announcement by Google that, I mean, it's their certificates, but they've announced these new certificates that I think take 6 months to study, and they're going to start to count those as being equivalent to a 4-year degree in their recruiting.
Interesting.
Jose again.
Just because you mentioned the certificates, I wasn't going to mention that, but that was last night. Nate's, were you there last night, Simon?
I wasn't, no.
Nate did a session on that certification. So anybody want to catch us up on that certification, that was covered in Nate's session, and those videos will be up very, very soon. Catch them. And I'm actually going to be doing that certification. I think a few other people in OTJ are going to be doing that certification. And sorry, Dave, if we can bring together a few people who want to study together for that, I think that'd be fantastic. The only other thing that I wanted to ask is, Michelle, that URL that you put down, I tried to put that into Google and I got references to a cool tattoo shop or cool Takubin. So I was wondering what cool TA actually goes to.
I just said cool ta.
I thought it was a URL.
No, I was thanking Simon for it being recorded. I may not be able to see it.
Nations divided by a common language.
What URL did I put in?
Well, that's it. Gave me like cool tattoos and cool Takubin and what other stuff here. Dave, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was going to say I'm planning to do the level 1 certification myself for the Google.
Yep.
Looks like Mary is too.
What does it get you?
Nothing.
Well, no.
What do you learn? What do you learn?
No, it does. Okay. So there's a whole bunch of them, but to get the other ones, you have to go in succession to level 1, level 2. Then you can branch out to innovator. You can branch out to creator. You can branch out from here to there to there. And but you need level 1, level 2 as your basics. So think of that as if it's a 4-year degree, think of it as year 1, year 2. You can do your required courses. Then you do a whole bunch of other stuff. And I'll be doing that with Jenny. And we're going to be study buddies, but if we can get like a group together, I'm pretty sure Nate would probably be okay with being our mentor in that sense. And we can talk to him maybe once a week or so about some problems we're having before we all go actually take the certificate.
There are Apple certified educator certificates as well, which might be worth having a look at.
What ones?
Apple ones.
Apple is a little tougher apparently because their certification cycle only goes once every 2 years.
Right.
And the nice thing about Google is there's so many people doing this around the world. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want to do Apple. I'm probably the biggest Apple fanboy in OTJ, but it does take a little longer. But the perks are much nicer. They fly you around the country much sooner than Google flies you around the country.
Right.
But Google is much more approachable. And
there's a Lego education certificate you can do as well. No, seriously, I know somebody who's got it, and they do amazing stuff. Lego in the classroom, like you wouldn't believe. Seriously, very, very good stuff.
I think that's actually an avenue that I think we should all be considering. Like, if we are going to be destroying education, and I don't disagree with those ideas, where are we going to be vetted? How are we going to sell ourselves to parents? You know, how do you tell a parent that I'm actually going to be a pretty good teacher for your kid because I didn't graduate from Harvard and I didn't graduate from Meiji or wherever else, but because this. And I think these certifications, these certificates from these companies that parents do know are going to be important.
Well, I think we're going to start an OTJ certification course. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I should say I did on a resume this morning. I did write the OTJ experience. I put the OTJ workshops. I put the all that on my resume. So
I think a big part of it as well is I'm going to be talking again. I'm going to be talking about this on Wednesday, but a big part of it is trying to get across the idea that your portfolio of work is as important as any certification you have. Certificates are great, but certification is proof of compliance, right? To a degree.
Right. Yeah.
What's the name of the certification? There are different ones that are coming up in Google. Which one exactly?
The first one, Kevin, that you need before you can get anywhere, the first two actually, is level 1, level 2 educator training. So Dave,
if you look here, Kevin, on the left, you got, sorry, Jose, you could read through the list if you want. Certified educator level 1, certified educator level 2, certified trainer, certified innovator, G Suite certification. There's the 5 categories of learning. And I think they're sequential. Is that right, Jose?
Yeah, they are. Actually, Kevin, the URL you want to go to is with Google, one word, .com. And then they have different subdomains within that. And if you want to go to the page that Dave's on right now, that goes Teacher Center, American spelling for center, one word, with google.com. So if you can just
I'll put it in
tap
chat.
that into chat, that's where you begin, Kevin.
Yeah, if you could put that link into chat. Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you very much.
I think my next thing will be to actually organize. It's obvious that there's a lot of interest in this, to organize a study group for teaching certification that maybe we could all nail before we go back to work in October, or the majority of us go back to work in October.
Went back to work last Thursday.
Yeah, sorry. For most
back to work. I think a 1st of September start would be a good little thing. Beginning of the month. I get that
because
only 18
I'm not
days.
busy enough. I got nothing.
Yeah, right. I can give you plenty of stuff to do, Jose. Don't worry about that.
I think we're pretty much wrapped up with this session today. I'm just going to stop recording. If you want to keep talking, we can do that.